Hey team, today we're going to talk about leadership and how to have a productive conversation about race with Dr. Amanda Kemp. Dr. Kemp graduated from Stanford University and she has her PhD from Northwestern University. She's a consultant, performer, professor, and racial justice and mindfulness mentor. And recently she's written a book called Say the Wrong Thing, Stories and Strategies for Racial Justice and Community. She's married to Mr. Michael Jimenez, and they have 5 children that they co-parent together. Now, I met Dr. Kemp and her husband when they came to the Army War College and gave a performance speech about Dr. Martin Luther King in celebration of Martin Luther King Day. And it was a very powerful performance. I really enjoyed it. Her husband plays the violin. He's a concert violinist, and she spoke. But my favorite part was when she got the entire room of 100 stuffy Army colonels to do some deep breathing exercises and reflections. We're not the best at that, but you did it, and that was really enjoyable to be a part of that. So, Dr. Kemp, let's just start off and talk about what inspired you to write your book.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And that was a wonderful moment in the presentation. I didn't realize how far I was taking you guys by asking you to do that deep breathing together. But I wrote Say the Wrong Thing over the course of 2 years during a time when the country was really in a lot of upheaval, and I myself was going through some personal upheaval. I just got married to my husband, Michael Jimenez, who is white, and we had just started to bring our families together, our kids who are also of different racial backgrounds. At the same time, where Mike Brown had been killed and where Eric Garner had been killed, and the phrase "I can't breathe" really resonated with me. So this book was an opportunity for me to sort out my feelings, to learn how to practice the new skills that I was gaining in self-compassion and mindfulness to my suffering and also to my leadership.
Absolutely. And I've read the book, and the angst that you're talking about, it's really evident in the pages. I really enjoyed the part where you wrote a few letters to your son and kind of dialogue back and forth with him. That was very powerful. But really, the practical part of the book that I enjoyed most was learning about the HEART method for teaching techniques to have that meaningful conversation about race with other people. So can you explain how you developed that method and maybe talk about 1 or 2 of your favorite points from the HEART method?
Sure. So the HEART method, briefly put, it's a way to get inside of yourself, to connect with your values while being able to listen to other people who may have very different opinions or experiences. So there are 2 steps that I like to teach when I'm introducing people to the HEART method. The first is H, holding space for transformation. And that's what I shared with the lieutenant colonels at the Army War College. That involves deep breathing and staying connected with yourself while you're having a challenging conversation. The second strategy is reflect on yourself. And this is key. Before we can go out there and do that, I recommend that we do this, that we look inside ourselves. The benefit of looking inside ourselves is that we get to know where we have to grow. We get to see how we have maybe internalized messages, stereotypes that we wouldn't consciously choose, but because they're all in the media and in the ways that we grew up, they're there. So reflecting on ourselves gives us something to do so that we don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing, because we've actually delved into ourselves.
A couple of things I really liked, and just to kind of react to the HEART method. The first one is I interviewed Mr. Pete Hardesty about leadership, and he talked about you have to know yourself before you can be a leader. And I think the R, reflecting on yourself, is a big part of that. You have to see yourself, see where you're at in your life, see what's going on. So, identify your biases if you're going to be an effective leader. The second one is stand strong in your values. You're not telling people to wave and go back and forth and change this, change that. Stand strong in your values, but be able to really listen and connect with the other person. That is very hard to do, but that's a part of the HEART method. I think the H, where you're holding space for that transformation, I think is a very powerful lesson for leaders and for everybody. So, Dr. Kemp, you grew up in foster care in New York City. You've been on an incredible journey in your life to Stanford, to Northwestern, to where you are today. What lessons did you learn from being a foster kid and coming out of that system that still apply for you today?
Well, there are two lessons that I share with people. Number one is get a mentor and allow yourself to be mentored. Another way to say that is allow people to love you. Really take that in. And if they have wisdom, allow them to mentor you. I always had teachers who were willing to see inside me, look me in the eyes and see me and feel me and encourage me along the way. The second thing is when you've been through a traumatic experience, like having lost your family and finding yourself in foster care, or having seen some things that are really hard for kids to see, don't underestimate the impact that has on you on a subconscious feeling level, and get support. I found that even though I'm now 51 and I was in foster care as a child over 30 years ago, the experience of having lost my mom, for example, and going through what I went through in the various homes I was in have affected my emotional capacity today. And so I get support. And whenever I have certain doubts that come up, I remember, okay, this is from that experience. I need some support. I need to get outside of my head and bring in another trusted person to help me.
Well, what a great message for folks in the military and for everyone, specifically for us that have been to combat, being able to you can't go to combat and come back the same person you were. If you ask my wife, was Eric the same person before he deployed and after, she would say no. But being able to be on a journey where you're willing to, one, reflect on yourself, and two, go out and get help if you need help, is such a critical message to everyone, but to a specific audience of all the military folks out there. That's a journey that we're all on, and whether we stay in the military or whether we transition, those lessons that you learned in foster care through some of the experiences you went through mirror a very different experience, but a very similar. Mm-hmm. It's trauma, and we have to be able to reflect. And man, having a mentor is an incredible, very important part of that, is having a mentor to help you along the way. Dr. Kemp, I always like to close with this question and just ask you, who's the best leader you ever worked for and what made them the best?
The best leader I've ever worked for is Neon Uspan. She is a diversity, inclusion, equity specialist. And what I loved about her leadership is that she builds in reflection time into our work process. So she would bring us together over a weekend or in a very cozy space so we could say, what are we learning? And how are we feeling? She recognizes that we are mental, emotional, spiritual beings. And so our feelings are informing us about something. If not about someone out there, it's that they're informing us about the person over here. And really, when we are leaders or we are the agents of change, what we do to this person is the most important thing. So I love what you said about getting support or quote help, but I also think about getting guidance and putting yourself in learning contexts that empower you. So when you do that self-reflection, you're not by yourself.
Right. It's a group journey, and I like what you said about your favorite leader and what she did to have time for reflection and time for expression. One thing that I did with my staff when I was a brigade operations officer in Iraq was we had what we called thinking time, and it was all ranks were invited and everything was open. We took a time out and we just tried to think of new ideas, and nothing was off the table. And it was a powerful time for us, because when you're deployed in a combat environment, you're going so fast, you don't have time to do that. But to take that time, 30, 45 minutes, just to think, talk, bounce ideas around, brainstorm, was a powerful time for us. We came up with a lot of great ideas that we implemented there in Iraq. So that leader you mentioned sounds like a great person and a great mentor. So as we get ready to close, I just want to turn it back over to you and let the listeners know how can they connect with you, how can they get a hold of the book, and just let us know how to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have been here and have this time with you and at the Army War College. If you want to get in touch with me, I want to get in touch with you. That's the bottom line. If you are feeling attracted to what I'm doing, I want to get in touch with you. So just go onto my website, dramandakemp.com. It's spelled dramandakemp.com because I'm a performer, as well as all the other things. And there you can find my book, the audio book, but you can also get in touch with me or find out about my courses, because I do create community online and I do go out and speak to people. So if you're one of those folks, I'd love to be in touch with you.
Great. Dr. Kemp, this has been a really enjoyable experience, and thank you for being on Lopez on Leadership.
I love being on Lopez on Leadership. Thank you.